The way you define the scope of your test is really important. It can affect things like test duration, the quality of the data you collect, and even the kinds of ideas that you end up testing. One way you can change the scope of a test is by letting it run on multiple pages at the same time. A typical example of that is, let's say, a product page. You have many products, but they all look kind of the same. They share the same template. So you can consolidate the traffic from all the products, and with more traffic, you can get results faster, run a shorter test, or run a longer test, but get a lot more confidence. And another way that helps you gain confidence in the results is that by exposing your test to all the products, you are measuring the net effect and making sure that it actually works across the board. Disadvantage to that is that because you are testing on multiple pages, your changes will be more generic. Whereas the advantage to testing on a single page is that you can go a lot deeper. You can do more specific copywriting and other changes that are specific to that page. Another way to run a test on multiple pages is to run it on a sequence of pages. So a visitor would still join your A/B test on a single page, some kind of step one, but you'd make changes to the next steps as well. So you can test your entire checkout funnel in one. And the advantage to that is that you can maintain consistency among the pages. So let's say you wanted to test a checkout tunnel pattern, which is when you remove the navigation and footer and other extraneous aspects of the site, so you focus just on the checkout experience. You wouldn't want to do that, let's say, on just step one and then have all that stuff reappear in step two. It would be kind of jarring, right, to your visitor. So you'd make that change across the entire funnel and test it as a whole. And another advantage is that you can think more holistically about the process. You can move fields around between steps. You can take a step back and maybe change your whole approach to it. You can test it with extra steps or removed steps and so on. This next way of defining the scope of a test has to do with when the test starts rather than what page it's running on. Let's say you want to test on your homepage, but you want to test inside of a particular section, let's say that's hidden by default. And then when a user clicks a button, that section is revealed, and you want to make changes to that section. So you can set up your test so that it starts not right away, but only when the user takes that action of clicking the button and actually sees the section. So the advantage of that is that you're excluding all this noise, all the people that hit the page and never even see the section you're testing. And so your conversion rate is then higher because you're measuring it relative to people who saw the section you're testing, not everybody. So if you do that, you can either get more confidence in your test, or you can run a faster test. Another way of defining the scope of a test is by segmenting your audience. Any site will have a diversity of visitors. Some of your visitors are coming from qualified sources like Google. Others are coming from specific keywords you're targeting, or your social media pages where there's, maybe they're primed with some information. You have new customers who have never heard of you before, and you have existing customers who have already purchased. You have mobile visitors and desktop visitors who have very different experiences. So it's best to either invest in a tool or a plan with your A/B testing tool that allows you to do this kind of segmentation after you've run your test, or if you don't have that capability, you could just target your tests to those specific audiences. So you'll run a test on just desktop traffic and set up a separate test on mobile traffic. And so the advantage of doing that is that you can uncover effects that otherwise would be obscured. The disadvantage is that because you're segmenting your traffic, now every segment is receiving a fraction of your total traffic. And so that means you're either getting, you're getting less data, and so you have less confidence in the result, or you have to run your test longer to get sufficient traffic for just that segment. And another factor related to this is how often you will discover false positives. So if you're doing a lot of exploratory analysis with segments, you will quickly find patterns that are just there by chance. The more exploration you're doing, the more cautious you should be. So you should be either retesting those kinds of results or running your tests longer to make sure that what you're seeing is true. In summary, I covered 4 ways to define the scope of a test. You can define what pages the test is going to run on, the pages on which the test is going to start. You can define which pages will be modified as part of the test. You can define when and under what conditions someone's going to join. And you can define who is going to join the test. If you have any questions about the advantages or disadvantages of any of these approaches, just reach out to me on Twitter.